Michael Barone, senior political analyst for the Washington Examiner and author of Shaping Our Nation, How Surges of Migration Transformed America and Its Politics. Michael, welcome, sir.
Hey, good to be with you, Steve.
Oh, well, I heard an interesting statistic yesterday. I read it. I forget where I read it. Then I was off yesterday. I was listening to Rush, and he repeated it. 70% of America is still white, quote unquote. But no doubt migration has shaped, is shaping, and will continue to shape America's politics. But how could everybody have been so wrong a week ago, leading into a week ago?
Well, I don't know that everybody was so wrong. The cephalogist Nate Silver said there was a 1 out of 3 chance for Trump to win the election. He gave some good reasons. I thought that made a lot of sense. And 1 out of 3, if you roll a die, you get 1 or 2, 1/3 of the time. So that's what happened in America. The real story there, I think, is that white non-college voters, people in the out states in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, gave Donald Trump much bigger margins than any other Republican has ever gotten. Among non-college whites nationally, Trump carried them by 39 points. That's way up from Mitt Romney's margin of 25 points in 2012. And in those states in particular, those were key and critical votes. There's not much of a Hispanic vote or an Asian vote in those states.
Right.
And those electoral votes, I think you can also see them as a failure of Hillary Clinton. The drop in Democratic percentage from 2008 and 2012 in those outstate regions was really great. So it really resembled what we saw in terms of white Southerners leaving the Democratic Party and presidentially in the 1980s and congressionally in the 1990s. That doesn't guarantee the Republican Party is going to win forever. Hey, nationwide, Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump.
Well, I know, but I've stated my problem with that. I mean, the campaign was for electoral the Otherwise, you go to California, you go to New York, you go to big population centers. Right. So the campaign would have been run differently, I believe.
It's like scoring football games by yardage.
Right, or baseball games by World Series by runs. Who scored the most runs in the 7 games, not who won the games. But what do you think of Dianne Feinstein, or maybe it was Barbara Boxer yesterday? I get confused between the two of them. Who was leading the charge to do away with the Electoral College? Do you think that would be a good thing? You think it'll ever happen?
Well, I come out on the side of the arguments against doing away with the Electoral College. Other thoughtful people, if you include me in that category, come out in favor of getting rid of it. But it ain't going to happen. It requires a constitutional amendment, which has to be approved by Congress and by 38 of the 50 state legislatures.
You said you favor getting rid of it? No. Yes. No.
I think on balance, I'm for the Electoral College.
Okay.
There are sound arguments on either side. I come out for the Electoral College, but it ain't going to be changed. I mean, it's like saying, we ought to have 10 provinces like Canada and recognize the Queen as the head of the state. You can make an argument that might be desirable, but it ain't going to happen, and neither is getting rid of the Electoral College.
Yeah, I mean, so many people would be basically, so many states wouldn't have their say anymore.
Well, they would have less of a say mathematically. The target states in recent years would not want to abdicate that status. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to get 38 state legislatures doing this. Okay?
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about a great piece that you wrote for the Washington Examiner the other day titled "The New Key to Immigration Reform, More High-Skill Immigrants." What is the future? We know where Donald Trump has stood for the most part on immigration in a general sense. We know where Paul Ryan and the Republican leadership, for the most part, is at odds with the base. We know where they stand on immigration reform. How are these two going to collide and/or meet and meld?
Well, the first thing to keep in mind is that in the 4 years of the Donald Trump presidency, there's not going to be legislation legalizing large numbers of illegal immigrants. That's not going to happen. That's an essential part of the so-called comprehensive immigration bill from the point of view of Democrats who see these people as being more voters for them. It ain't going to happen. So if we're going to change our immigration laws, if we're going to fix our immigration, it's going to be on the basis of something different from legislation that many members of Congress considered relevant in the different circumstances of 2006, 2007, and 2013. I take as a rubric Donald Trump's speech in Phoenix on August 31st, when he was just returned from his meeting with President Pena at Los Pinos, the presidential residence in Mexico City. And he had a number of provisions there. He wasn't talking about excluding all Muslims. He was saying we're not going to extend visas to people from countries where we can't validate their security status. He did not talk about immediate deportation of 11 million illegals. He talked about, as he may have done on the campaign trail, he talked about the proposal of, say, we're going to have deport criminals more than we have now, and we're going to get rid of sanctuary cities, but for illegals who are not in trouble with the law, the decision on them, either legalization or deportation, is going to be deferred until we secure the border. Those are sound, arguable principles from which serious arguments can be made. And the 10th of 10 points that Donald Trump made in that speech in Phoenix was high-skill immigration. We're going to switch the law. Our current immigration laws favor immigration of collateral relatives of low-skilled people, and they have fewer avenues for high-skilled people, and many of those avenues are like the H-1B visas, which are really amount to indentured servitude for some of the tech companies. That's part of the Comprehensive Immigration Act. I say let's adopt provisions similar to the point systems of Canada and Australia that prioritize high-skilled immigrants. Currently, Canada admits more job-based immigration people every year than the United States does, even though the United States has 10 times the population of Canada. Canadian diplomat told me, please do not imitate our immigration laws.
Yeah.
We want those high-skilled people in Canada. Well, I have nothing but good wishes for Canada, and I wish them many more high-skilled people. But that we might engage in a little benign competition with our friends and neighbors north of the border and try to attract some of these people ourselves. We can have a higher skilled population in the future by changing our immigration laws this way, or we will have a lower skilled population in the future if we keep them the way we are.
But Michael, is there really a shortage of high skilled? Because I keep reading that there really isn't, and that we have college graduates who have these qualifications that can't get jobs.
Number one, when you look at what people are taking in college, a lot of those women's studies majors and
well, I'm not talking about them,
They're not well, but you look at the ones who are the baristas with the bachelor's degree, and you're looking at a lot of people that didn't take engineering or something on that order. Listen, I'm not troubled by the idea that Americans with high skills have more competition. I think it is somewhat troubling that Americans with low skills have had more competition than has probably been good for the country.
Right, let me
change my views on that, but I don't think high-skilled people should be afraid of competition. I think that that's the way to grow our economy, to increase our skill base, to have a higher skilled population in the future.
Well,
that we can do it consistent with what Donald Trump set out in his speech on August 31st.
I just think that we should make sure that all of our people have those jobs first. That's just my opinion. But quickly, and we got a minute, LA mayor, New York City mayor, others, they're going to keep sanctuary cities. What could Trump do about that?
Cut off their federal money.
Yeah, it's that simple. I know de Blasio just came out of a meeting with Donald Trump and said that he expressed his concerns about putting police at odds with the federal policy. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think federal law trumps state law and city ordinances, and under the Constitution, not just because of Donald Trump. And I think if these people want to defy and undercut federal laws that aim to protect American citizens, they should lose their federal money, see how they do without it. We had a secession in 1861 that didn't end up very well for those who seceded. And these people want to secede from federal law.
Right.
I think that they should not be surprised if they lose some money for it.
Michael Barone, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right.